It was an idea that started in a canoe. Michael Budman and Don Green knew little about business and even less about making shoes, but were inspired by their time at Camp Tamaqua in Ontario's Algonquin Park. Their first product, the Negative Heel shoe, was a tribute to the Canadian wilderness and launched the beginning of a 4-decade-long love letter to Canada. From Algonquin Park to the factory floor in Toronto, this is the story of Roots. Back to the first product, the Negative Heel, the first store, starting the whole business. How big were you dreaming? How big were you thinking?
When we opened the doors, on 1052 Yonge Street, and Don and I built that store ourselves, and we had the carpenter who worked in Algonquin Park come down and do the carpentry work. We always did have the idea of make it ourselves and sell it ourselves. Right from day one, it was successful, right off the bat. I mean, we sold 7 pairs of shoes that day, August 15th, 1973. Dan Aykroyd and Gilda Radner and Marty Short were in the store that day, helping us out, getting it open.
You were there from day one, 1973.
All the way back.
All the way back to day one.
I think we got caught up in the momentum. It sort of got away from us right off the bat, because the original idea was Don was going to work 6 months and I was going to work 6 months. And then within the first year, we opened 30 or 40 stores. It took on a life of its own really quickly. That was quite a moment.
What started with 1, then 30, has become 120 stores in North America alone and nearly 100 more worldwide. Ad campaigns feature athletes and celebrities, a who's who of Olympians and Hollywood stars.
Go down to your roots.
Roots is meant to be a celebration of what makes us Canadian, celebrating our talent, our landscape, our innovation, despite the fact that the founders can't yet claim the country as their own. There is something ironic about these two American guys having to define something that's seen as so Canadian.
When I moved here, and I told people I was moving here from the United States, people thought I was nuts. Well, why are you coming here? There was such a lack of confidence. And if you were great, you had to go to New York. You had to go to the States. And both of us, I think, from our youth, from going to camp, we fell in love with Canada. And I still feel that same way. Like 40 years ago, what an incredible decision to come here and see what's happened here and be part of the growth. And in our own way, Roots, we think, has had a nice part in the development of the Canadian identity. The first thing people want in Canada is maybe maple syrup and smoked salmon and Roots.
The factory is the nerve center for Roots leather goods. Bags, shoes, jackets, all cut, sewn, and put together with precision care. It's an international brand, but Roots is still very much a national operation, with 2,000 employees in Canada. Do you find people are surprised when they discover that this is actually one of your main factories, is right here in Canada?
Absolutely. They don't believe that this exists. They're just so schooled to think of everything offshore.
You have to put it manufacture somewhere else. Has it been hard to keep it here? Was there pressure to move it?
At one point, there was pressure by previous management to move to offshore, and that idea and those people got sledgehammered. So, I mean, this is the heart and soul of the company, the DNA. But it can only be that if it's successful on its own 2 feet. And I think that is what's kept us pushing it, making it work, because it's such a big part of the company. And we're going to see things change because we cannot continue to make in the Bangladeshs of the world.
Michael Budman is here every day. It's his second home. He takes pride in the factory and in his employees. The flags hanging from the ceiling represent their international heritage. And though more than half of its products are made offshore, perched on each machine is a Canadian flag, a symbol of Roots' commitment to manufacturing its leather goods in Canada. From a business point of view, it's a tough call. You could make the products much more cheaply, some would argue, by going to the many places globally that do this in bulk.
Yeah, I think you know, we've seen so many of these problems lately, what's happened. It's not just the working conditions, it's also what the factories are doing to the environment. I think in our way, we're trying to stick to who we are and our beliefs in the environment. And by making here locally, it's better for the world. You know, people can argue about leather and many different things, but that we run this factory, it's state of the art, it's air conditioned, people love what they're doing. That's making a statement about the company, and I think that filters down to the customer. And we despise disposable fashion. We don't want anything to do with that business at all.
You mentioned disposable fashion. To be sort of fair to the manufacturers who do go there, is it driven by consumer desires? Are we demanding faster, cheaper?
You know, I grew up, my mother worked at Saks for 50 years. Everything she bought me came from Saks and was all the best quality. Her motto was less is best. Buy one beautiful shirt or one great tie. Don't ever be caught dead in something cheap. And she drilled that into my head, and so I was exposed to that, and it had a big influence on me.
Less is best was not necessarily the motto when it came to trying new business concepts. And in 40 years, there are inevitable ups and downs.
This is a final boarding call for Roots Air #1.
The short-lived Roots Air
I think all the kinks have been worked out. I'm flying, so I hope they have.
and Roots Vitamins,
We think it's a natural fit.
the struggle to expand into the U.S. market, and losing the coveted role of official retailer to the Canadian Olympic team. But that hasn't stopped the company from taking chances then or now. So 40 years from now, where do you hope Roots is?
Right now, it's a family business in the sense that Don, Denise, Diane, and I own it, running it. Don has 3 children, and I have 2. None of our children are going into the business. I'd like to see Roots maintain its integrity, that the right people are going to partner with us, that understand the opportunity that is presented to Roots out in the world marketplace today. I know we're for sure in for another 5. We'll see what happens. And hopefully we can reach heights we haven't come to before, and I think that's going to happen.
The next chapter for Roots is unwritten. But at the heart of the company is a love story between 2 friends in the Canadian wilderness. In a country that rarely gives itself enough credit, Budman and Green aim to celebrate Canada in every shoe, every jacket, every bag, every pair of cabin socks.
Both Don and I have our applications in to become citizens, and we're just waiting, and hopefully that day will happen soon.
And why, after so many decades, did you both decide to do it now?
I just felt, you know, it was time. Yeah, I'll be a joint citizen, but, you know, I've lived most of my adult life here, and I felt it was time.
You know, if you get rejected for citizenship, that would be a pretty good story.
No, I'll tell you.
Hope you'll
first.
let me know. Amanda Lang, CBC News, Toronto.